All right, let's get started. We will, this is Capitulum Secundum, Pars Prima, or Unit 2, Part 1. We'll see how far we get through it tonight. I think these slides have everything that's in Unit 2, or at least that was my intention. We'll be covering the second declension. That's where we see the masculine nouns. We get a simple verb, the verb to be, which is, I am, you are, he is. And we start to see kinds of sentences because we're going to start building up some more complicated sentences, which right now we really haven't been able to do because all we knew up till now were feminine nouns, which are very important, but a bit limited. We need more nouns and we need some verbs. All right, let us begin. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. Okay, so first thing we do, of course, is a spot of renewal, just to kind of refresh where we were. Last time we did the homework, but we saw the first declension nouns. Those are nouns that end in A, like Maria, Vita, Ecclesia, Femina. They almost all are grammatically feminine. There are a couple that are masculine, like Agricola, which is farmer, Nauta, sailor, and and Papa, that was the other one. They are historically male professions. So even though they're grammatically, or even though they look like a feminine noun, grammatically they're masculine. I think the only one we really have to worry about is Papa. Other than that, you can pretty much safely say that, at least in our vocabulary, if it ends in an A in the nominative case, it is feminine. And those, of course, are the endings. We also added prepositions and two conjunctions, et and que. So as I've said before, que is added to the end of the word to indicate and. So if you remember your creed, qui ex patre filioque procedit, who proceeds from the Father and the Son. So patre filioque, Father and the Son. And keep in mind that those wonderful prepositions need special cases, which we went through early on. And let's see. So what's up next? They said Jesus, as in fructus ventris tui, Jesus.
Yes.
Okay.
That's all I could do, not to turn around.
Hey, they were trying, right? Yeah,
They were trying.
That's the important thing. Anyway, up next are the second declension nouns. These are the masculine and neuter nouns that are in the second declension. So that rounds out our three genders. If you remember, I said early on we had feminine, masculine, and neuter nouns. We're just going to do the masculines on this pass. The third unit has the neuter nouns, but that actually should be fairly straightforward because most of the neuters more or less follow the masculine nouns. There's one or two exceptions. So, but the masculine nouns, they end in US, ER, or IR. They have they have more possibilities in their endings. But the good news is all three form almost identically the same pattern. And so sort of the same thing happens. I chopped off the IR. Did I leave that off? Oh, well. we'll see. Anyway, nouns ending with US. So it's the same thing. You take the root. Whoop, there we go. You take the root word and drop the US. So if you have dominus, it's domin. And then you add the appropriate ending, depending upon which singular, plural, case, etc. Nouns ending in ER and IR are the same. You can put a little IR in your notes or /IR because ER and IR follow the same pattern. So in the case of puer, which means boy, or vir, which means man, the root is puer and vir. Okay, and we'll see I'll go through some of these patterns later on. Nota bene, which I think works in Italian as well as Latin, not all nouns ending in US, ER, or IR are automatically second declension. Spiritus is fourth declension, and pater is third declension. We haven't had either of those two yet. We will get to them. But for now, we're sticking with the second declension. So here, oh, there we go. There's my IR table. It's probably not, well, these may seem somewhat terrifying, but it's not quite as bad as it might seem. If we look across, we see that these three endings are the same. We see these three endings the same. We see these three, these three, these three. So across the second declension, all of the endings are the same. The only exceptions are these first two up here, the ER and the IR ending words. We don't have to, the word itself is in the nominative case. And again, I'll get some of those. But also, notice that the genitive endings are, singular genitive endings are exactly the same as the plural nominative endings. This is the same as in English. If you have books, that would be genitive singular, and then the plural is books. The only difference in English is we put an apostrophe S or we don't. So Latin actually has a little, well, I guess Latin has the same ambiguity. If you just say the word books, you don't know if it's books, apostrophe S, books, no apostrophe, or even books with an S apostrophe. But in any case, the genitive and the plurals are all the same. The accusative all end in M if it is singular and end in S if it is plural. Now notice for feminine, it's AS and masculine, it's OS. So, and then the dative and ablative plurals are the same, is all the way across the board. It's only until we get to the third declension that ruins that some of that nice symmetry. So it's not quite as many endings as you might think. But again, you got to get them down, whatever way works. Now, the good news is as we add, in Unit 2, we're going to add masculine words, and we're going to add a couple simple verbs. So now we can at least construct simple sentences that hopefully will help us remember how to use the various cases. Slight digression here. I mentioned the vocative in lesson, oops, that's not 2. That was lesson, oh, when I say lesson 2, yeah, that's right, I'm in the second class. I said we'd get to it later. Well, later is now. The vocative case, and think of, in Latin, vocare means to call. So if I were to say in Latin, I am calling you, I could say voco te, I am calling you, or I am calling thee. So you can think of the vocative voice in the sense of, to call somebody. So Examples, hello, Peter. Salve Petra, which we'll see later on. Oh, I'm sorry, there it is. Ave Petra. Lord, I am not worthy. You are addressing the person directly. You want to get his or her or its attention. For US ending words, singular, the vocative case ends in E. All other nouns, all the others use nominative form. So it's only in the singular masculine US ending words, okay? And actually, I think there's an IUS version now that I think about it. I need to go double check that. Anyway, so the one that's really easy to remember is the Domine non sum dignus, od entre subtectum meum, which is said just before communion. Lord, I am not worthy. Another example, as I said, was Peter, Petrus. I want to say, hello, Peter, Ave Petra. I just have to drop the US and put an E on there. Now, we've actually been using the vocative form, as in, hello, Mary, Ave Maria. But notice that there's no difference. For the feminine version, or for the first declension, it's exactly the same as the nominative. So that's why I said I pushed it off. Pater noster. Okay. Yes, that is vocative. But pater is third declension. Yeah. So it's the same. And noster is also, noster, nostra, nostrum. So yeah. Oh, okay. Jesu. All right. You're right. Jesu does have a vocative case. It is actually, Jesus is not it's not actually a second declension noun. It's got its own special category. But yes, the vocative form of Jesus is Jesu. Just drop the S. Let me type it in here. Jesu, or if you want the J, either one. And but if you look at your vocabulary, you'll see that Jesus is not listed with the second declension. All right. So anyway, back to declensions. So if we consult our dictionaries for the word servus, we see servus, servi, and serva, serve. We see that there are two forms. There's a masculine form and there's a feminine form. And what the word means is a slave, servant, serf, serving man. And if it is serva, it would be a female slave or a maid servant. I guess the ancient Romans were highly egalitarian. They would enslave anyone, including their own in some cases. So anyway, we have a masculine form, servus, and a feminine form, serva. If again, in the dictionary, you would see it in this form. And the reason is they give the nominative form and the genitive ending for all the nouns that are in the dictionary, every last one of them. And so that the servus, comma, I, comma, M says it's masculine. Since it's servus and I, how does serva differ from ancilla? Ancilla is, in the simplest form, ancilla and serva are synonyms, okay? But ancilla is usually translated as handmaid. So it's usually a personal servant or slave, as opposed to just your run-of-the-mill slave. But they are, the meanings overlap between the two. And that's what you usually see in the ecclesiastical writings. Is Mary was the Ancilla Domini, the handmaiden of the Lord. Let's see, where was I? Oh, so anyway, as I was saying, this US and I shows you that this is second declension, and this AE shows that it is first. So what I'm also pointing out is that a lot of words have masculine and feminine forms in Latin when there are male and female versions of the noun. Obviously, tree, arbor, does not have a male and female form. But for those things that clearly do, which are generally mammals, for example, and this is true of English as well. For example, a bull is a male bovine, a cow is a female bovine, and a steer, well, I guess that's neuter. But we also have count and countess. We have duke and duchess. So there's a lot of English words that have masculine and feminine names. Most of them are related to human beings, where you'll see them, but there are differences even in some of the mammals, where it's important to distinguish the two. So let's take an example of servus, slave or servant, and we will decline it with our newly learned endings. So servus is the nominative form, just servant. The genitive or possessive form is servi, servants. Dative is servo, for or to a servant. Accusative is servum. Servo, ablative. Now, the good news is later on, when we get some of our verbs, we actually get to use these forms. So they may not seem terribly useful now, but they will be later. Servi, by the way, this is a short E, so don't say, well, I guess a long and a short E, but anyway, yeah, try and keep it short. Servi, servants. Servorum, servants, plural, possessive. And notice something, what happens. If you go back and you look at this aurum, actually, let me jump back to here. Notice what happens on the genitive plural of all these nouns. If you remember back in the second lesson, I said that the accent goes on the second syllable if the vowel is long. Well, guess what? Those are all long, okay? So the A is long, the O is long, so the accent now shifts to here. The other endings do not affect where the accent goes, but the genitive plural does. So we go, instead of servi, we go to servorum. If I can, yeah, try and emphasize that slight difference. Servis, 2 or 4, servos, accusative, and servis, from, with, in, by the servants. Same thing can be applied, and this is both review and to show you that it works both ways. Same thing for serva. This is our first declension noun, so we'll drop the A and we'll go serva, servants, serve, servants, possessive, serve, 2 or 4, a servant, servam, and serva, serve, servants, servarum. Now we put the accent on the A there. Servis, servas, and servis. Any questions? Okay. So let's go for the ER verb. I said that the second declension masculine nouns ended in US, ER, and IR. Well, the ER have a slightly well, the ER are only different in the nominative form. Okay. So if we look up for puer, we say puer, pueri, which is a male child, a boy, lad, young man. And so again, you're going to see the nominative form in your dictionary, puer, or in the primer, either one. And then you see ERI. So what that ERI says is you're going to take the puer and you're just going to add an I to it. And we'll get to an example here. And a young female child, by the way, is puella, just in case you were wondering. And the ELLA is a feminizing form. So you can see that they've really, it's not like they take puer and feminize it with puella. It's just two different forms, masculine and feminine. But anyway, puella, and if you want to, I'll leave you guys to, at what age did one go from a lad to a young man? Oh boy. I've been called a young man when I was 7, so I don't know. You know, there is a word, let's see, for an adolescent, adolescens, Juvenus, that's another word, but that's generally means youth. It's kind of a it's, and Juvenus is mostly persons older than adolescents. It can even be a 20-year-old, maybe a young person, young man, young woman. I mean, I don't know if there's a clear distinction. I mean, a clear age category. But puer would certainly, there's a Christmas song, Puer natus est nobis, which a male child is born for us, puer. So anywhere from firstborn up to, probably young teenager. And after that, you might switch to adolescents. Anyway, okay. So let's take puer and we'll run it through our table of conjugation, sorry, declensions. So yes. So anyway, so puer, again, we're going to take the puer. That doesn't change. That's why there's a little dash there. Otherwise, it is exactly the same. Pueri, puero, puerum, puero, pueri, puerorum, pueris, pueros, and pueris. So again, just the same. So now ERs are, some ERs drop the E, ager, agri. And this is why you got to look in the dictionary and see the nominative and the genitive form, okay? Puer does not, okay? And puer keeps the ER. So when you look it up, so when you look it up in the dictionary, you see puer, pueri. But when you go to ager, you see ager, agri in the dictionary. So it's important to know the nominative and the genitive form. So anyway, but ager, again, once you get past the nominative form, it's the same thing all the way through. Agri, agro, agrum, agro, agri, agrorum, agris, agros, agris. And you will notice that we use that. Agriculture, this is just where we, cultivation of the land. So we have a good what's the word I want? Cognate in English to help you remember that. The last one, no, that's right. Oh, didn't I do veer? Did I leave out veer? Oh dear. Okay, I left out veer. Veer goes the same pattern. You look it up, you'll see veer, veerly. So it'll just put in a veer, veery, vero, verum. I have a feeling I missed a slide someplace. Darn. Oh well. I'll throw it in next time. Let's see, where was it? Oh, okay. Now, well, actually, let me go back to that. Are there any questions on the second declension yet? Where did teacher come from? I have no idea. Adam, you might look it up in an English dictionary and see where the roots are. It's certainly, let's see, I can't think. Yeah, I can't think of where it might have come from. All right, the verb to be, okay. The verb to be is irregular in just about all languages. It's probably regular in, oh shoot, what's the language that's artificially?
Esperanto.
Esperanto, thank you. Yeah, Esperanto. It's probably regular in Esperanto, but everybody else, it's completely irregular. So you just have to sit down and memorize it, write it out. I don't know, 50 times, whatever you need. But the nice thing about it is we can now begin to construct sentences. Now let me go through these. So sum, es, est, sumus, estis, sunt. First, second, and third plural. So I am sum, thou art es, he, she, it is est. We are sumus, you are estis, they are sunt. So we can now make simple sentences. But one of the things to keep in mind is Latin verbs are unique for each person and number. And so Latin usually omits the pronouns if they are the subject of the sentence. So I'm not even going to give you the pronouns right at the moment. We'll get them later. If I wanted to say I am, now I could say ego sum, but I could also just say sum.
The girl.
Or I could say, if I wanted to say thou art, tu es, I could just say es. And that's just, Spanish drops the pronoun as well. Is that what you're saying, Teresa?
Yes, it has some of the same rules as far as number and gender and the verbs. And so if it's clear, they also can drop
They
pronouns.
drop it. Oh, okay. Did not know that. That'll make Spanish a whole lot easier. So anyway, so, you know, sum, es, est, sumus, estis, sunt. Now, as I said, usually, I don't know if you recall the cogito ergo, well, in fact, a good example is cogito ergo sum. Descartes, I think, therefore I am. So cogito, I think. Notice there is no ego in there. Ergo is therefore, and sum. So if I wanted to put in the pronouns, I'd actually say ego cogito ergo ego sum, which doesn't flow nearly as nicely as cogito ergo sum. So you don't need pronouns at this point. And as I said, we'll get into them in the future, but just there's no reason to bother with them right at the moment. Also, not only, oops, was there a question? Okay. Since Latin drops the pronoun, and there is no a, and, or the in Latin, we kind of have to supply, if we're translating into English, we usually want to translate it into good English. We have to supply the missing words. So Papa est. Literally, that is Pope is. Now, if you just go around saying Pope is, they'll probably think you're talking about a Pope whose name is Izzy or something. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, that is, granted, that is a valid sentence in English, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So
apparently, teacher comes from the old English teikon, which comes from some Proto-Germanic word taikion, which means to show.
oh, okay, makes sense. Thank you. But so anyway, so for Papa est, we can translate that as he is the Pope. We can also say there is a Pope, or the Pope exists. Any of those three is what this means, okay? Generally, we would pick which one of these within the context of whatever went before and after. If it just sits there, Papa est, I would just probably pick the middle one. There is a Pope, or the Pope exists.
Michael?
Yeah.
In the text in chapter 2, I think it's at the bottom of page 18, it makes this comment that when sum is used without predication, it means exist, or I guess generally means exist.
Yeah.
When it is used with some form of predication, then it means be. So I wonder if that's similar to your experience.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's typically a helping verb when it has that obviously predication. But so by itself, then it means more likely exists, like you were saying, the Pope exists. But you're saying here, more often, this is not sum, this is est. So,
well, it's the same thing.
Uh-huh.
The verb is usually copulative, meaning it's trying to join something together. If it just stands there, I mean, you wouldn't say the Pope exists.
Right.
You would say there is a Pope. And again, what I want to emphasize here is you have to make a certain amount of judicious choice so that it works into good English. Yes, Pope is in English it's a perfectly grammatically valid English sentence, but nobody goes around saying Pope is, dog is, whatever. We would say the Pope exists if it stands alone, or there is a Pope. Maybe that's a.
Well, they use the example with sum. They don't use it with est. So
no, it's the same thing. Same thing.
Okay.
Yeah. No, they all of the present to be verbs that so sumus est s. Same thing with Deus. Okay, same thing. Deus est, he is God. There is a God. God exists. Although, yeah, God exists. Yeah, we say that. So maybe Deus est would be God exists. But as I said, you want to kind of supply some of those words in order to convey what the Latin is trying to say, even though it may not be explicitly there. Anyway. But yes, it applies to all the verb to be's, all the verbs of to be. Wow, all the forms of the verb to be. There we go. Let's see. So, subject must agree in person and number, same as in English. But as I said, Latin usually drops the subject if it is a pronoun, because its verbs are unique to the person and number. So does everybody remember, well, do you remember the Confiteor at the beginning of Mass? In English, it would be I confess to you. Yeah, yeah. So Confiteor, it's not ego confiteor, it is just confiteor. Peccavi, we don't say ego peccavi, we say peccavi, I have sinned. Now, as I said, usually, okay, maybe I should have made that a bigger font, that particular word, because in confession, the priest says ego absolvo te. So it is used, not frequently. Often, the reason that pronoun is there is to emphasize the pronoun. And so in confession, when you're giving sacramental absolution, or for that matter, any of the sacraments, the priest is, well, not all of them, but anyway, in a lot of them, the priest is the alter Christi, the taking the form of Christ in the sacrament. So, or in the administration of the sacrament. So the ego there is to, in fact, that was what was used in, if you go to the Vulgate, the passages where Jesus said, I absolve you of your sins. I believe you'll see an ego in there, at least in some of it. So it's kind of emphasized.
So in English, that would be like the equivalent, the difference between I am here and I am here.
Yes, we would have to do it. Yes, that's a very good example, is we would have to stress certain words in order to kind of get the same effect. So
It makes it more formal too, and you reemphasize that pronoun.
yes, it does. Yes, it does, or it can. Okay. So now we get into some fun. Any questions so far? All right, now we got to talk about sentence structure. This chart, I wouldn't worry too much about it, but there are three types of basic forms of sentences. There's statements, questions, and commands or requests. There really aren't any other forms. And if there's also a direct and an indirect form. So a direct form is I visited my brother, which is rather remarkable because I don't have one, but hey, it's an example. You're making a statement about the subject and an event, and the subject, or in this case, I, and the doer. Indirect statement is he said that he had visited his brother. So it's not that, it's not the subject of the sentence is indirectly carrying out the action. Direct question, why is the sky blue? Indirect, why is the child asked why the sky is blue? I think a direct command is going to be pretty obvious, like get your feet off the sofa. I'm sure there are others we could construct. Indirect would be his mother told him to get his feet off the sofa. We're just going to worry about the direct statements for a while. Right now, we're going to do the direct statement, then eventually we'll get to the direct questions and the direct commands, and the indirect will come later. So besides these basic three forms, there are seven forms of sentences. And again, this is true of both Latin and English. I need to borrow some words that are not yet in your vocabulary. Don't worry about memorizing. We'll see them later. But I do need more verb forms, okay? We've been hurting for verbs. So the first one is really, really simple. It's called the basic intransitive sentence. An intransitive verb is simply means the sentence is all about the subject. There are no direct objects or anything that modifies it, okay? it's a simple statement. So simple declarative statement like I am, God exists. Let's see what else. Dogs eat, cats meow, stuff like that. Subject is always in a nominative case, which makes it easier. In Latin, I talked about ego sum. Sum here is the intransitive verb. There's nothing that follows here. So that's all it is. Don't need the ego, but in English, this is I am. Another example is video. I see. Don't need the ego, just video. Now this should be a real easy word to remember, because if you pronounce it in English, it is video. So every time you are watching a video, you are saying I see in Latin. So hopefully you'll be able to remember that. Next step up is to add an adverb, okay? Sum ibi, I am here. We haven't had ibi yet. Video bene, I see well, okay? All we've done is add an adverb, form 2. Form 3 is where things get a little more interesting. This is where we have a transitive sentence. All right, what does a transitive sentence mean? It means that the sentence has a direct object. It means that the subject is doing something to the direct object, okay? So, video Petrum, I see Peter. Video Papam, I see the Pope, okay? Make sense so far? Okay. The next up is to add an indirect object. Now, oh, by the way, come back to that. Notice I said the subject is nominative and the direct object is accusative. So now we actually have a good reason to use the accusative case, because it's going to be the direct object in our sentences. So the next thing is to add the indirect object. And I said last, I think it was in the second lesson, that that's what is used for the dative. If you remember, way up here, the dative was for or to a field or to something. So now, oh dear, I lost my place. There we go. There we go. Here it is. So in this case, do, I give. Ego do, but we don't need the ego. Petro, librum, I give to Peter the book. If I said do libro Petrum, I would have a very strange sentence, because that would mean I gave Peter to the book, which makes no sense at all. So you can see this where the ending here is going to indicate who did what to whom. And that's why I've been kind of hammering on. Petrus dot Deo gloriam. Peter, nominative, dot gives. We don't have a lot of these verbs yet, but means do dare, do das, dot damus is give. Deo to God, gloriam. Petrus dot Deo gloriam. So Deus is one of our new second declension nouns. And then Gloria we had from last time. So this is the fourth pattern: subject, transitive verb, indirect object, direct object. Now, keep in mind that it doesn't have to be in this order. Latin I could say, do librum Petro, I give the book to Peter. I can also say do Petro librum. I give to Peter the book. Notice that works in English as well, either way. Okay. So these can be in either order, at least certainly in Latin and generally in English as well. Any questions there?
Yes, librum, is that a second declension? Is the nominative form librus?
Actually, that is an ER. That is a ER ending. Let's see.
Okay, I was wondering about that because yeah.
Yep. Let's see. I just
Second declension masculine.
Yeah, it's also let's see if he's got it in the.
It's just like Ager.
Yeah, I was trying to see if it. He didn't give it the vocabulary. Yes, it is liberi. Here, let me copy that. See if this works in the message. Let's see what happens when I paste that. Yeah, there we go. So this is like ager agri, like we had earlier. Liber libri. Understand? Whoops, you know what? I sent that just to you, Alex. I got to send that to everyone. There we go. People are wondering, what's he talking about? There we go. Liber libri is that form that we saw back with ager agri. Okay. And so if we scroll back, let's see, where was that? I think it was up here. Oh, nope. Keep going. There we go. Nope. Keep going. Yeah. So ager, agri. So the accusative form is agrum. Well, we could put in liber, libri, just change the, I don't know, the agri to libri, and you would have book. All right, so number 5. Okay, now this is slightly variation on the number 3. And what we're going to do there is add a predicate accusative. It describes some feature of the direct object. The example they give in the book is Jesus makes Peter the Pope. And so somehow the Pope and Peter are linked to one another. And so since Peter is an accusative, then the Pope has to be an accusative. So they're both in the accusative form, okay? So, and Latin generally uses the same, well, Latin does use the same case for words that go together. So, and we'll see that even more and more later. In some sense, the Pope is like an adjective in the sense that it's modifying Peter, but it's a noun, so we call it a predicate accusative. So anyway, but facio petrum papam. Facio is to make, and as I said, don't worry about it. We'll get verbs here, and is it the 4th unit? Yeah, 4th unit. We're on the 2nd. So facio petrum papam. I make Peter the Pope. Wow, I feel empowered. Anyway, a better way is sentence would be Jesus facit Petrum papam. Jesus makes Peter the Pope. And again, we're gonna put a the in there because Latin doesn't have a the. Jesus makes Peter Pope. It doesn't, you know, Peter Pope sounds like a first and last name, so we have to put a the in there. Another example is facio Petrum salvum. I make Peter safe. And I'm taking all these examples, by the way, out of the book. So if you read the book, you should see the same thing. So since that noun refers back to the direct object, they are both in the accusative case. Okay.
Seems bizarre that they would have that sentence. I make Peter the Pope.
I don't know. Hey, I looked at that.
You know what that sounds like, don't you? It sounds like it's subscribing to all the conspiracy theories.
Yeah, I know. What was it? Oh yeah, Pope Michael, who's a favorite of mine. If you don't know who he is, go look him up on the internet.
Well, in the Middle Ages, some of the emperors could actually say that.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting history of how some popes got to be pope. Anyway.
The emperors in particular, like Otto the First, Otto the Second, Otto the Third, they all decided who was going to be pope. It was only those emperors that decided.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they basically threatened everybody else. So.
But to use that today as a sentence seems a little bizarre.
I agree. But I guess we don't have like umpire or let's see, governor. I don't know. We only have that's why I like this one better. I make Peter safe. Anyway, pattern 6, there's only 2 more, by the way, is the copulative verb to be. Okay. Now we already saw sum, est, etc. And what a copulative verb means is it links the subject to another noun or adjective. So we saw Petrus est papa. Peter is the pope, but it can also be it can be an adjective. So sum bonum, I am good. Jesus est filius Dei. Jesus is the Son of God. So filius is the predicate noun, okay? And it's in nominative. And then we threw in a genitive in there, the Son of God, filius Dei. And Michael est archangelus. Michael is an archangel. That is actually the correct form for Michael in Latin, Michael. It's a bit, the CH is like, as in Christ. And then it has this wonderful AE. It's not AE like the diphthong, like femine. It is actually an A and a long A and a long E. So you can blame the Hebrew on that, since Michael is imported from Hebrew, with probably some Greek thrown in there. So this is not terribly difficult. I mean, it forms the same format in English. So we have the nominative and nominative. And it can be a noun or it can be an adjective. Question?
Just a curious thing, because I'm trying to understand transitive here. I thought transitive necessarily took a direct object.
Yes, it does. If it's a transitive verb, it must have a direct object.
Okay, but in this case, where you say Jesus is the Son of God, there is no direct object.
Oh, you know what? That is a typo. Oh, thank you. That is the copulative verb. Oh, wow. Well, this is what happens when you copy and paste. I was trying to figure, I couldn't understand why you were confused. Now I know. Let me check, see, what does he use in that? He should probably say, yeah, copulative verb. Well, yep, that was pure copy and paste.
Okay, I'm less confused now.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. All right. So everybody cross out transitive verb on your notes and put in copulative verb. Wow. Okay, lastly, there's a passive voice verb plus an agent. Okay. Passive voice verbs are something we'll get to, but they're way, way out there in the future. A passive voice verb is simply a verb that is done to the subject as opposed to the subject doing the verb. So if I were to, in an act, whoops. Boy, that should be passive, shouldn't it? Yeah, passive verb. There we go. There we go. Anyway, if I were in an active voice verb saying I praise or I am praising, that is an active voice. Passive voice is that the action is happening on the subject. So I am praised, I am being praised, or something like that. So, but this is where we start seeing the agent of the ablative. I mentioned this early on, that ablative was kind of like the instrument of means, or who it was done by, or something. It's got a number of functions. So, so a Petro, laudor a Petro. I am praised by Peter. Deus laudatur a nobis. God is praised by us. So anyway, you may, laudor and laudatur, or from, if you remember the Gloria, laudamus te, benedicimus te, glorificamus te. Well, laudamus te is we praise thee. And then these are the passive forms. Don't need to know that yet. The important ones, though, is this one with the copulative verb, and then some of these intransitive verbs, such as sum. Okay, in this case is where we are at the moment. But look at those 7 patterns, okay, and study them, because they form, they give you the structure of a lot of the basic sentences. We will add more complicated things to these basic sentences as we add clauses and stuff, but even the clauses kind of form that same pattern. So, read through the unit 2 carefully and try and absorb that. And if necessary, periodically go back and review it, or so. But the good news is we now at least have an idea on how to do basic sentence construction. And this forms a wide range of sentences. As I said, you don't need to say, oh, I'm using pattern 4, or, oh, I'm using pattern 1 or 3 or 5 or 7 or whatever. That's not the reason for why I'm going through these. I want you to see what the sentence pattern is and how to fill in the blanks. So it's kind of like, think of it as training wheels. If I said something in Latin, you asked me, oh, what form is that? I'd have to go back and see which form is which, to be honest with you. But understand what those patterns are, if that makes sense, I hope. Any questions? Okay. So, last section is in unit 2 is predicate nouns. Okay, this is where we get to make some of our own sentence. That's really the form of pattern number 6. XXX is YYY. In other words, something is something. So in English and Latin, you got to have the same person and number. So for example, if he, she, it is YYY, then YY needs to agree in number as well. In English, we might say, he is a servant. We don't say he is a servants or he are a servant. everything in that sentence has to be singular. So same as in Latin, and every other language for that matter that I've ever studied. So puer est servus, the boy is a servant, singular. Pueri sunt servi, the boys are servants, plural. So this is no different than English. Any questions there? Okay, so here are some examples. Discipula, that's a female student. Discipulus, that is a male student. So for the women, that's feminae or mulieres. Singular, discipula sum. Actually, I should say discipula non sum. I am not a female student. Discipula est, you are a female student. Discipula est, she is a female student. Plural, discipulae. Remember, just add the AE to get plural. Discipulae sum, discipulae estis, discipulae sunt. Okay, so singular, plural. I am, you are, well, in this case, she is. For men, works the same way, viri. That is a vocabulary word. That's for which we get virile and a whole bunch of other ones. Singular, discipulus sum.
Michael,
Yeah.
for the women, the plural, shouldn't that be sumus, not sum?
Oh, good grief.
I was trying to figure out why it was wrong. It was sticking in my head. There was something wrong
Yeah, I
there.
put occasional mistakes in here just to make sure you guys are paying attention. That is my story, and I'm sticking to it. Yes, thank you. Wow. This is an old chart. This is a chart from last class too. I'll have to go back and see if that's I got it right there. Quite right. Thank you, Teresa. For men, discipulus sum, discipulus est, discipulus est, discipuli sumus, discipuli estis, discipuli sunt. So everything has to match number. And if we put adjectives out here, gender as well. But actually, we don't do adjectives yet. Sorry, that's I think that's the fourth. Yeah, I think adjectives are the fourth unit. So anyway, now we can use all sorts of good stuff. We can add in the genitive. So Papa est minister Christi. The Pope is the minister of Christ. We've seen this one before. Jesus est filius Dei. Jesus is the Son of God. Jesus est agnus Dei. Jesus is the Lamb of God. So agreement in the subject and the verb, or rather the number in the subject and the as in how many, singular or plural, and in the verb. Okay. So we got a whole bunch of things, and I tried to stick in. Now we can also add in the prepositions. So we can say things like Jesus Christus est agnus Dei et filius Dei. Jesus Christ is the Lamb of God and the Son of God. And by the way, I made all of these up, and hopefully they make sense. Maria est ancilla Domini. Mary is the handmaiden of the Lord.
Shouldn't that be ANCILLA? The spelling
Oh,
of ancilla, shouldn't it be ANCILLA?
okay. Yes, that's where we get the ancillary. Okay, all right.
And that goes back to the question I asked earlier. So
Yes,
that the difference between serva and ancilla is that ancilla is most often used as handmaid and serva is more maid.
Yeah, an ancella, as I said, it's a what's the word I want? It's like a personal slave or personal servant. So it'd be a maid servant or a handmaiden.
I
Serva,
think that's where we get the word ancillary.
yeah,
It
yeah.
means
And
there's something on the side that helps you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, think of ancillary, Alex.
Now, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong. It's kind of your job, but anyway, if I remember correctly, handmaids, especially in the Bible, were special maids to the lady of the house,
Yes.
but they were sometimes also used by the Lord of the house. If you go back to Abraham and Sarah, when they felt like she was able to conceive, she was, and I learned this in some course somewhere. The handmaiden of the lady was often given to the Lord so that they could have a son, an heir for the family. And when they gave birth, and I remember this very clearly because it was something I never heard before, when the birth came, the handmaid would actually tuck herself between the legs of the wife so that the wife could kind of halfway simulate giving birth to the child. So handmaid, at least in the Old Testament, as far as I understand, had also very special meaning as opposed to just a maid servant.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's what I mean. A personal servant, as in, somebody who is always at hand.
And when you consider that story of Abraham and Hagar and everything, and you look at Mary, or Virgin Mary, calling herself the handmaid of the Lord, that brings a whole new dimension into that relationship.
Yep. And we can add in some of our prepositions. Bethlehem in Judea, Judea. I should never use this word. I can't say it right. In English, it's Judea. Judea. There we go. Bethlehem in Judea est. Bethlehem is in Judea. Part of it is I want to do that EA, and it's actually the other way. Judea. Yeah, okay. It's the A, not E. Trips me up.
Michael,
Yes.
quick question. Stylistically, when you introduce a preposition like in,
Yeah.
is it typical that you change the word order from, for example, before you have Maria est ancilla domini, now you have the est at the end of the sentence. Is that because you have the preposition there, Bethlehem in Judea est?
No. You can put these. Let's do this.
I'm not saying whether you can. I'm just asking whether it's more typical that you would say Bethlehem in Judea est more so than Bethlehem est in Judea.
Boy.
It seems like that's how I've seen it written.
Yeah. Okay. This is getting a little bit advanced, but in Latin, the usual word order is subject. Definitely. Yeah. Subject, direct object, or indirect object. They can go in either order. And then verb, meaning verb goes at the end. Okay. So often in a purely plain word order sense, the verb is often at the end. Est is a little slipperier because it can go a number of places, but Bethlehem est in Judea is fine, but I don't know, it just sounds right this way. And that's probably because I've seen it that way in the Vulgate and other places.
Yeah, I understand that you can change the word order any way you want, but that my question was, it seems that that's the most often way I see it written is with the verb at the end, particularly when you have the preposition in there.
You're probably
Just
right. I haven't thought a lot about it. On the other hand, I wrote both of those, so I may have, it may be unconsciously did it that way. Yeah, I mean, by design, unconsciously, if you know what I mean, because that's the way it often is. Bethlehem in Italia non est. Bethlehem is not in Italy. Of course, it'd be my luck. There's some town in Italy called Bethlehem, wouldn't it? Filius Mariae est Jesus. Mary's son is Jesus. Now, actually, Alex, now that I think about it, you know what? I think you're right. If you're saying X is Y, meaning Filius Mariae est Jesus, usually and apostoli sunt discipuli Christi. See, in this case, these are the copulative verbs, and it's a predicate noun predicate noun. Then the S tends to go in the middle between the two.
Right.
But if you then switch to something like this, yeah, they usually do stick the preposition, and it's not just the preposition; it's the location. Because doctrina ecclesiae est apostolis, the doctrine of the church is from the apostles. So maybe it is just the in. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, continuing on. Apostoli sunt discipuli Christi. See, we can add the genitive in there. Disciples of Christ. Doctrina ecclesiae est apostolis. The doctrine of the church, doctrina ecclesiae est apostolis, is from the apostles. So now we have, I think I have some more. Doctrina apostolorum sunt doctrinae ecclesiae. The teaching of the apostles are the teachings of the church. I should have thrown in a preposition that uses the accusative, and then we would have all the cases in there. I'll make a note to do that next time. But we can now get simple sentences. Any questions?
Look in the chat.
That's a quick question. If you had the word terra on that doctrina ecclesiae est ab, if you had the word terra, I know it wouldn't make sense, but would it be ABS? Because in the first chapter, they say that ABS is only used before T, but it doesn't say it has to be used before T.
That's actually, yeah, and that's what he was trying to say is it can be atera, optera, or obstera. It can be any one of those three.
Okay.
But yeah, ops is not, it wouldn't be ops apostolis that they didn't.
No, I know that. I just was curious because it wasn't as clear to me as it could have been that whether it's permissive to use it only before T or whether it's mandatory to use it before T, and you're saying it's permissive.
Permissive, the former, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so we got about 10 minutes. So anyway, now going back to the Ave Maria, we've got the first declension words, okay, and the prepositions, which are in blue. And now we have the second declension words that are in US or ER or IR. So let's see here, benedictus. Now, fructus is not highlighted because fructus is fourth declension, like spiritus. We will get to those at a future date, but that's why it is not highlighted. But we pick up tui, tuis, tuus, Jesus, Dei. And so we've got most of the words of the Ave Maria in here. So, you know, one thing that I've been stressing is as you memorize these, it's easier if you can put it in a prayer or a phrase or something that just comes naturally to you. And then you can say, oh yeah, like that.
What about mulieribus? Is that also fourth declension?
Third.
Third, okay.
Third declension.
Yeah, that's third. That was the last. Yeah, actually, I think you weren't there for that class. That was like the last class we had of the last semester or whatever you want to call it.
That's one of those examples where the dative and the ablative are once again the same.
Yes, they are, and that follows pretty consistently in the plural.
Dative and ablative plural.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So, any questions? Because now we get to do a little fun stuff. Again, it's Advent, and you know, if we're up to me, there'd be a constitutional amendment that you don't get Christmas music before the Christmas season. But there's a lot of Advent music out there, so I thought I would mention a few. One thing is, a lot of people don't know the difference between a hymn and a carol. I mean, we have Christmas hymns, we have Christmas carols, right? Well, hymn comes from hymnus, the Latin, or hymnos in the Greek. And a hymn is a religious song or poem of praise to God used in solemn worship. Hymns are sacred, okay? So Gloria in excelsis Deo is a hymn. Carol comes from the French, and it actually refers to a circle dance accompanied by singers. So if you've ever been to, I don't know, like the Renaissance Festival or some of these other things and that are like that, and you have a group of people that are pretending to be medieval and they're musicians, you know, they'll be in a circle or dancing or playing the flutes. We do have the word from Latin, which refers to actually flute players. But a carol is a festive song, usually religious, but it doesn't have to be. But it is not connected with church worship, and it's often like a dance or a popular tune. Carols would be known as profane. Now, unfortunately, the word profane or these days is you usually think of profanity. That's not what profane means. Profane means common, everyday, or what's a better example?
Vulgar.
Yeah, well, vulgar, then you think of, you know.
Yeah, it's changed over time too, but the Vulgate was the common language.
Yeah. Profane is for everyday use. That's the word.
I think what you want to say is not sacred.
Well, yeah, but that's, I didn't want to put that in there. Anyway, but yes, same idea. So anyway, so for much of history, hymns were always sung inside the church in sacred music, okay? Carols were always sung outside the church. So today, well, it's a bit more of a mishmash, but anyway, so I'm afraid Frosty the Snowman should like stay outside the church. And so should Rudolph. Advent hymns. Okay, let's have some Advent hymns here. Verbum Supernum Prodiens, 6th or 7th century. I put links in here to my web pages that have the words, and I put in a YouTube link so you can at least listen to it. I believe most of these are by the Anonymous Four, who do a wonderful job. I'm trying to find chant because chant is easier to follow. Certainly there are classical and Baroque and all sorts of compositions of these that have been down through the ages. But I'm kind of focusing on the chant or chant-like because generally it's a little easier to follow. Then there's another one, Vox Clava Ecce Intonat, 6th century. A personal favorite is Rorate Celi. Let's see, Rorate Celi de super, rain down ye heavens from above. Let's see, oddly, I don't have that on my website, so I'd refer you to Wikipedia. This recording has the Latin and English words. As I said, I like, well, actually, I like all of them, but Rorate Celi is an antiphon from Isaiah, chapter 45, verse 8 in the Vulgate. It is also the introit for the fourth Sunday in Advent. So I'm sure some of us who go to Annunciation will certainly hear it on that on Sunday. It's also Wednesday in Ember Week, the expectation of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Oh, expectatio. I should probably explain that. I bet nobody knows what the expectation has ever heard of it, have you? Crickets chirping. Okay, one of these days I'll mention that. But also votive masses for the Blessed Virgin Mary. What?
Tell us what it is.
Later, we're running out of time. I'll save it. Well, let me put it this way. It's not the 18th yet, so I can do it next week.
Okay.
Anyway, so it was in the 17th century, the Rorate was arranged into a hymn, combining the traditional text with other scriptural passages. See, the original was just an antiphon. It's pretty small, but the entire hymn appeared in the oratorians. The oratorians is an order, the Officia Propria in 1673. So that's where we get it. So it's, in fact, of Advent hymns, it's kind of a newcomer. Couple of carols. Now these are carols, not hymns. The Pueri Concinite. I think, yeah, I think you put me onto this one, Alex. Oh yeah, this particular one. My other favorite is the Angelus Virginum. Oh, wow. That is like not, I thought I fixed this. Okay, well, I didn't. Anyway, I have the, you can go to the my website and look up the Angelus ad Virginum. It's a very festive thing. In fact, if you listen to this, you can tell that it's not a hymn. It's a very festive, joyful piece. Is unlike hymns, which tend to be a little more solemn, if you know what I mean. And yeah, okay. This was sometime in the latter part of the 13th century. It's in the Dublin Troper at around 1360. Chaucer mentions it in his Miller's Tale. If you get a chance to listen to the recording, as I say, you can hear it's very festive tune. And next time I'll probably do maybe the Veni Veni Emmanuel. I will certainly talk about the O antiphons. And one that
Veni Veni Emmanuel, that was the 18th century?
Well, it's from the 9th century antiphons, Adam. So I'll talk about the antiphons themselves, and then we'll work it into that. One that just doesn't, okay, there's the Stabat Mater Dolorosa, which everybody, well, almost everybody has heard, which is Good Friday. Sorrows of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Well, there's a companion piece, Stabat Mater Speciosa, which celebrates Christmas. It is very difficult to find. I do not have a good recording of the chant of that, for which I am supremely annoyed. And so, Catherine, if you want to do a really rare piece, Look up that one.
Yeah, I was just like, oh my gosh, I've never heard of that before. That sounds really cool. I don't
Yeah,
know where
I should have it. Yeah, I should have it on my websites. I'll try and remember to send you a URL. There may not be
Okay.
an existing arrangement for it, but at least you can read it. You know, then there can be two people in the world that know about it and like it. And then, of course, Puer Natus des Nobis, which is the introit for Christmas. Which reminds me, okay, quick question or quick poll. We have, today, of course, is the 9th. Next week is the 16th, and we'll certainly have class there. What about the 23rd? That's the day before, or I should say that is the night before Christmas. I'm certainly available and willing, and I'd kind of like to hold class, but I don't know what everybody. Now, the following week, by the way, the 30th, that's right out. But I am around, I will be around for the 23rd. Is there any, who does not want to meet the 23rd?
I don't know. Sometimes I don't know, but sometimes we sometimes go to mass on 23rd. I don't know what time we would do that though. So 23rd is kind of iffy for us.
Okay.
Also, we often spend a bunch that night putting ornaments on the Christmas tree.
All right. Well, we will decide. We'll decide next time. But everybody, keep in mind, and we'll see how it shakes out. Anyway, it is now 9:02. So with that, I will. Is Lucy on? I don't think Lucy made it. Okay, I had an answer to one of her questions. I'll email her. All right. So let us say the concluding prayer, and I will stay on for a few minutes after for any post-class discussion. So with that, I will mute everybody. And we will begin. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. And so that's the end of class.